And welcome everyone to another episode of the Apptrepreneur Show, a special Friday night show. We don't do this often, but for those of you who are unaware, the Apptrepreneur Show is a podcast where we discuss tech, pop culture, and life in between. And today we're going to be talking a lot of tech, a lot of life in between, and I guess technically a little bit of pop culture too. We normally do these shows on Sundays. However, due to recent events, we are actually doing a special Friday live stream for everything the craze is going on. And we have a very special guest. I teased this a little bit. I hyped it a little bit, but we have back from the grave, back from YouTube obscurity, we have Aaron from Your Personal Driver.
What's going on, everybody? Haven't been on the internet in a long time.
Yeah, so are you still called Your Personal Driver?
Yeah, I might as well. I mean, you can call me anything, I suppose, but yeah.
Okay, well, is this going to be your big YouTube comeback? Is the name going to change if it is?
This is it. You can see I'm building the family battle station. No, for Christmas, my kid actually, he said what he wanted from Santa was a YouTube channel. So I think that I'm going to help him do whatever it is he wants to do. I don't know. I don't do Uber anymore for health reasons, so I kind of felt bad. I didn't want to be one of those people who pretended to
Is
be
it just
Uber
for health
YouTuber.
reasons? Is it just for health reasons, or is there a financial incentive to not do Uber as well?
Well, no, I needed better health insurance, so I had to go get a job in the real world where I could get some help out with the with health stuff.
Right. No, I totally understand that one. I've kind of had to do the same thing. COVID was COVID rocked our worlds here in the Apptrepreneur household, just as much as it rocked everyone's world. But here's the thing. One thing that I did not stop doing, in fact, when COVID hit, I decided to do a little experiment on my YouTube channel. And I think you commented you were so proud of me that I was going to be doing hey, I'm going to put an average of $100 to $200 a week into Robinhood, buying stocks. And we're going to see where we are at the end of the year. That experiment is definitely coming to a close. We're hitting the 1 year mark. But when all of this craziness with GameStop and AMC and Robinhood hit, it's like I knew there was one person I wanted to be in the room talking about this with me, and that was Your Personal Driver, who got me hooked on the Robinhood app, and now I'm wondering if that was even a good thing to begin with.
Well, you made money, I'm sure. I mean, last couple of years have been really good on the market, so.
Oh yeah, I made a lot of market, and by the way, thank you, Dark Road Run, for the $5 super chat. So thank you,
boom,
boom. Yes, that's the other. I know people who are listening to this on Spotify and iTunes can't see the super chats, but the super chats we use to answer questions from viewers. Most of the time, they will be at the end of the show, but since we're kind of in the pre-show discussion, I figured we'd start that. But anyway, let's not.
I just want to say, Dark Road Run, that's you up there, buddy. You're rocking out with your guitar out.
Yes, so everyone on YouTube can see that. Everyone listening, they can't really.
Oh yeah,
see that. Yep. The dilemma of doing a podcast on YouTube, but oh well. So anyway, we're gonna get pretty much into the topic because we're basically talking one topic, but there's a lot of things going on with that one topic, and that is Robinhood. And as mentioned earlier, Robinhood, for those of you who are not aware, is basically a stock buying and selling app. You could also get cryptocurrency on this. So
you can bet on cryptocurrency, but you don't actually own it yet.
You don't own it yet. Okay.
Because you don't. Well, you technically own it, but you can't take it off of Robinhood and spend it like it's an actual currency.
I wouldn't be doing that anyway. I'm treating crypto like the stock market itself. Like, hey, I'm going to buy low. I'm going to sell high. By the way, folks, crypto is also doing really good right now. But so anyway, Robinhood, when you turned me onto this app, because I have another stock portfolio that my viewers do not see. I have actually been buying stock with Fidelity for a long time. And
That's a good one.
Yeah, it's a good one, but I always bought it sparingly because of the $8 transaction.
$8.
Yep, $8 to buy, $8 to sell. Now the funny
what
thing,
was the world like before the internet, where people thought that was okay to charge you $8 to buy stock? It's just weird.
Oh no, that was the internet. That was the internet. Like I started buying Fidelity on Fidelity, I should say, by in 2010, 2011. So it's this is a good decade ago, and Wall Street was officially on the internet, but they were still charging fees. Well, Robinhood came along, decided, hey, you know what? We're going to do away with the fees. We're going to charge a monthly fee if you want more features, but there's going to be some basic features. And it was a revelation. And I used your referral link, so you got a free stock. If anyone hasn't started yet, you technically can use my referral link, but you might want to hold off just until the end of the show before you actually commit to that. So Robinhood got itself into a little bit of hot water this week because, well, Aaron, I've explained this so many times. Why don't you explain what's going on with GameStop since you're the guest? I don't want to keep you.
Okay. So here's what happened. First off, I don't know how savvy your listeners are, but you kind of have to know a little bit about inside baseball and Wall Street to figure out how this works. So there's this, it's a speculative trade you can make. Speculative, that might even be too complicated. So there's investing, and then there's gambling. Let's just put it that way, right? So if you like a company, you're like, I like Disney or whatever. My kids like it. We go to Disneyland. I think that it will be here in 100 years from now. I think that it will go up in value. Then you buy Disney stock as an investment. You're going to be a part owner of the Disney company. And if Disney makes an excess of profit, they will send you a dividend, right? Now, the other side of the stock market is just a casino. There's all kinds of technical names from it. People kind of understand derivatives a little bit because of the movies that they've made of them from the 2008 market crash. But one of the things you can do, which is just straight gambling, is bet on whether a stock will go up or down over time. And I have no idea why this is illegal. It should definitely, in my opinion, be completely outlawed. It doesn't make any sense at all. But what happened with GameStop is a bunch of people on Wall Street were like, hey, no one's buying physical games anymore. Everyone's just downloading them off the internet. And then companies like Google that have Stadia, where you don't even have a console. All you do is get a controller, and then you play it off the Google Cloud. They're like, well, GameStop's going to go out of business. Let's bankrupt it, basically. And so they did what's called shorting the stock. So they said, in the future, I'm going to pay you this money now because I think the stock is going to go down. Now, the problem with this is the way it works is if the stock goes up, the bet you made can you can owe infinite money as the further it goes up, if that makes sense. It also works in the inverse. So if you think the stock is going to go up, like Disney's definitely going up, so you buy Disney in the future at a higher price and it goes down, you can infinitely lose money. So what happened is this dumb idiot billionaire decided he was going to just short GameStop to the point where he had 140% of the total market share of GameStop, which means if he bought every available stock of GameStop, there'd still be 40% extra money on top of that he bet that it was going to be shorted. What this does is it drastically drives down the price of the stock as other people jump on the bandwagon. And what this Reddit group did, do you remember what they're called?
Yeah, they're called Wall Street Bets.
Wall Street Bets, right. Is a bunch of nerds got together and realized just how lopsided this bet was and how easy it would be to take advantage of it. And they initiated what has been known for a long time in the investment world as a short squeeze, which is just like it's a fun term for saying that you basically screw somebody's short position because they've over leveraged or they put too much money into a position.
Yeah, this is how people trolled people before Twitter, by the way.
Yeah, and this isn't new. Companies have done this to individuals. Individuals have done this to companies. Hedge funds have done it to other hedge funds. It's like one of the tools that these hedge fund billionaires have in their tools, or in their what do they call it? Arrow in their socket or whatever. Their arsenal. Their arsenal. There you go. Your viewers are already like, who's this idiot? Anyway, so what happened was through Reddit and Twitter and TikTok and all these other social media sites, the idea of if we make GameStop go up, not only one, do we keep it from going bankrupt? But 2, we can easily make money on it because of how over leveraged this idiot was. As a side note, I believe he had about 10 billion in capital, and I think that he bet 14 billion worth of money, basically. So he over leveraged his position to the point where he was betting more money than he actually had to pay, which
brings new meaning to the term,
so
to the phrase that Steve Jobs had, that the richest people in the world are no smarter than you or I.
No, they just have more money. And so anyway, this guy has this insane dumb position, and it's an easy thing to take advantage of if you know about the stock market, because all you have to do is buy the stock. And what happens is, as you buy the stock goes up in price. And as it goes up in price, the person with the short end, right, the person who bet that it would go down, loses more and more money. And it goes like that infinitely. So you could lose forever, basically, because what he has to do is either sell at a loss, which means he's like, okay, I don't want this to go any farther. I'm going to sell my position right now and take my loss. The problem is, in order to do that, he has to buy the stock not only at a higher value, but there's less available stock to be sold because other people are buying, if that makes any sense. So you have all these Redditors, all these Twitter followers buying. And this guy's like, oh my God, I gotta get out of my position. I have to sell now. Well, he's competing with everybody else. So it exacerbates his position even further. And it got so bad, this dude lost billions and billions of dollars in this position. GameStop was saved, and the whole world just blew up at Wall Street because nothing like this has ever been done by like normal average people.
Right.
The last time something like this has been done, it's by real big movers, hedge fund owners, like real titans on the Wall Street thing. And the idea that just some average Joe on his couch could just essentially steal billions of dollars from this guy blew their mind. But that's why you don't invest in bad options.
Right. So basically what happened was there was like a big troll thing. And, this group of people had like a vendetta against this guy. This guy had borrowed people's money during the housing market crash and used people's money to make bad bets that resulted in people losing their homes, their pensions, their 401ks. But he made a lot of money because he was betting against the economy to fail, basically. And they decided they weren't going to let him get away with it this time. So that's one of the reasons they bought all of this stock, and they drove it up to an astronomically high price. In fact, if there's one thing that I want to say, I actually had GameStop stock. I had like 10 shares. I bought it at $6, and it got up to 20 at one point, and I sold it thinking I had got a good deal. And, I am going to always regret that one, obviously.
People have been paying their student loans off with what they made in GameStop.
Oh, yeah. Some guy put like $50,000 into GameStop stock, and now he's got over $50 million. Like, he's set for life. Now, Keep in mind, as we talk about this, we're not telling people to buy GameStop stock because realistically, this is way overvalued. And it's not going to go forever, because one of the reasons people were holding was because they were waiting for the short options to expire, which they expired today. And we have actually an official account for how much money was lost. Would you care to take a guess how much money was lost by the hedge funds?
14 billion.
14 billion. Well, you see, I initially guessed 12. I thought, but it was like, it was way worse than that. So
really?
Here's an article from Fortune, reputable news source. Now, of course, since you people watching it live, I know you can read this, but for those listening on Spotify or iTunes, I'm going to read this for you. This was written by Jen Wisner, and the title of the article is called "Hedge Funds and Other Short Sellers Have Lost an Astounding Amount Betting Against GameStop." So, the GameStop trade has been a disaster. That's putting it mildly. A disaster for short sellers. The stock has surged some 870% over the past week and was up as much as 11-fold compared to where it started last Friday. So just to build on what you said, if you bet $1 billion that GameStop stock was going to fail, you're paying that back plus 870%. So you might actually now have a pretty clear picture of where this is going. And while the traders on Wall Street Bets, the Reddit forum that kicked off the unlikely rally for GameStop stock, may be racking up profits, and some of those people will make a lot of money, by the way, the damage is accumulating for short sellers, the investors and hedge funds who bet against or short the stock. By Friday, short sellers had lost, get this, $19.75 billion on GameStop so far this month alone.
That is awesome.
Yep, according to S3 Partners. Well, I guess we already know your answer when I ask what you think about this. A New York-based firm that tracks short positions on U.S. stocks. And here's the thing. The article goes on to point out how, like, by comparison, a lot of these hedge funds actually tried to short Tesla and lost $40 billion in this. But Tesla is, and look, I don't want to like criticize GameStop too much on this one because, full disclosure, I do shop at GameStop. I mean, I know they're kind of.
I mean, but I just don't play video games as much anymore.
Yeah, well, but I mean, if you do play video games, I mean, look, we can make fun of their business model all the time, but the bottom line is, hey, you walk into a GameStop, they have 3 or 4 previously used games for $20. Heck, I'm buying some. I'm buying some.
Growing up, who didn't go to GameStop? It was, like a Nerd Central there. It was everything you could ever want.
Right. You can't, and you can't get those prices on digital. I'm sorry, you just can't, not unless you're buying mobile games. But here's the difference between what happened with Tesla. Tesla is a legitimate company, and investors saw a future in it. This was basically a bunch of punks in a basement or, in a room like yours and I's, no different from you and I. They've probably got ugly facial hair too. And they decided just to get together and say, hey, let's just start buying GameStop stock and let's stick it to them. And I think it worked out way better than even they had anticipated. But here's
I'm going to cut you off there if you don't mind. I don't like this narrative that people keep talking about it, because when you're investing in a company, what that's another way of saying you find value in what the company does.
Oh, well, I didn't get to that. I didn't get to that part yet.
Of Wall Street telling people, oh, well, let us tell you what has value and what doesn't have value. It drives me nuts. If you find value in a company that you're going to put your money towards it, then you are with that company creating value. So the fact that Wall Street doesn't value GameStop doesn't mean that company doesn't have value, even if in the future maybe they're going to, get less and less revenue because they're selling less and less games. But if people around, the United States, even if they are in their basement at their mom's house, find value in GameStop and want to put their money in that company, then how is that any different than some hedge fund guy typing some stuff into a computer and coming up with an algorithm saying this company is going to be valuable? It doesn't make any difference.
There's no difference, and I mean, I didn't get to that part yet because the other part of that, aside from the fact that they wanted to screw these guys, was because they did this for more than one stock. They also did it for, like, for example, AMC. Yeah. Like, AMC also had, like, huge hedge funds betting against it, and that one seemed more personal, where they were like, hey, you know what? We like AMC. We like going to the movies. We don't like the idea that, and look, they're in bad enough shape as it is. And the fact that some hedge fund out there might be going on CNN and stuff telling people to get out of this basically so they can make some coin. No. So they rose AMC stock, not nearly as much as GameStop, but hey, I had 100 shares, so I did pretty good on that.
But here's the thing. AMC is on the verge of going bankrupt because no one's going to movies.
They can't go to them. They can't go to the movies. That's a large reason for
not in the U.S., but in other parts of the world where they didn't have as much COVID problems, that people still aren't going to the movies now.
No, the European cinema was rebounding nicely until second wave.
And the other problem is companies that are making movies don't really want to release it in movie theaters right now, so they're trying to find ways to go direct to streaming, and so it's really hurting AMC.
Yeah, but the good news for AMC, not that this is like turning into a speculative podcast, but they've now had a year to find out how direct-to-consumer works, and the way it works is, well, Trolls almost made money, and everything else didn't make anything, because once you put it online, and I tell people this, it's really hard to convince people to pay for it once, because it's like, okay, I could pay $20 to see news of the world with Tom Hanks, or I could watch what Netflix is giving away for free, quote unquote, and I'll just wait for news of the world to be free. So that's not a viable business model. And in fact, one of my favorite YouTubers, A Dose of Buckley, did a video where it's like, movie theaters will survive, the movie studio's life depends on it. So I think the studios have their own reason for wanting this AMC to not do well right now, but I think the theaters are still viable.
Yeah, well, I think that there's still something to be said about going to a movie theater and seeing something large on that big screen with those speakers that are vibrating the room, you know?
Right, so but let's not get too much off topic here, because bottom line.
But my point of this is, if you're a person who likes going to movie theater and you don't want AMC to go bankrupt, what makes perfectly rational thinking to buy that stock when they need it the most, right?
Right.
Because you're doing two things. One, you're saving the company from going bankrupt, and two, if you can keep the company afloat long enough to where COVID goes away, fingers crossed that it happens one day, and then AMC's still there, and they're going to go back to making a profit. Well, then you bought in at the absolute bottom. Right. So that's what I'm talking about when it's talking about creating value. It makes people are talking about these guys like they're just trolls, oh, they don't know what they're doing. They're just investors from Robinhood and they're not smart. No, it's completely rational to buy into a company that you think is valuable and hope that you can keep it afloat long enough to make money.
Yeah, well, some of those irrational people just became millionaires overnight. So now, granted, we do have to share the ugly part of that, of course, is that at some point, not all of them are going to win on this one, because once this is over, obviously the people who got in the earliest, the ones I saw some screenshots, people literally had a couple $1 million because of GameStop. They're obviously going to sell that very soon. And so some people will be left holding the bag, and GameStop is realistically worth $20 to $40 a share. Yeah, just realistically.
So my one counter to that, because I hear what you're saying, and please, if you're listening, don't buy GameStop at AMC. You are poor now. You will end up poorer than you are now if you do that.
Well, we're not telling people what to do with their money.
Yeah, don't do it. I'm not. But I will say this. I just lost my train of thought because I just said that. I'll keep going. I'll cut it back in when I can remember what I was saying. Okay. Well, so anyway, that's what they were doing. This is for a lot of companies. Now, the reason we're doing this podcast, because this is not new. People who have been watching my channel for the last couple of days, saw that I was releasing multiple videos about GameStop. One person and Robinhood, one person even said it's almost like when you were first on the scene, you were doing 2 or 3 videos a day with Uber. And I'm like, oh my gosh, is it that much of a disaster? Because that's why I was making so many videos on Uber back then, was because it was every 15 minutes. But Robinhood did something that a lot of people got very upset with, including me, including Philip DeFranco, people like that. They actually looked at the volatility. Sorry, my stutter. Interesting that guy was a stutter, runs a podcast, but whatever. They looked at that for these stocks, and they halted the trading yesterday. Now, full disclosure, you can buy and sell them again today. Well, okay, I missed a step. You couldn't buy them anymore yesterday. You could sell though, but you can sell them, which created a huge controversy that creates market manipulation, because of course it makes people panic, and it forces the stock to go down. But today they allowed buying again, although it's still limited. It's limited to what it's kind of dependent on the user, I suppose. Some people said they could buy 5 shares of AMC. Some people said they wouldn't let me buy more than 10. It was it kind of just depended. But the bottom line is Robinhood made a lot of people upset, because that appears to me and to a lot of people to be market manipulation. And, you shouldn't manipulate the market. Let's make that absolutely clear. But Robinhood seemed to do it. Now, the question is, there's a few questions about this. One, what right does Robinhood have to do this? Is this legal?
And I think I just lost your personal driver. So I'm going to try to keep this going as long as I can until he either texts me and we can get him back into the room. But I've done a little research on this topic. And first of all, you always have to start with the terms of service. What did you agree to when you signed up for the terms of service on Robinhood? And does it apply to you? Well, there is a provision in the terms of service that says Robinhood can, at their discretion, for a variety of different reasons, basically whatever reason they want, suspend trading on certain stocks. Now, it doesn't say that it is limited to they suspend buying of the stocks or selling of the stocks. It's one of those things that they can just suspend the trading of the stock. So, and we have him back, so thankfully. So the terms of service does say that that Robinhood can basically suspend trading for whatever reason, but there's a big question going on about whether or not legally they're allowed to do that. Is that considered stock market manipulation? And here's the funny thing, and then I'll ask Aaron what he thinks about this particular topic, because we're a pretty divided country right now. We're not going to talk politics too much, although it's getting kind of harder to these days. But it's one of those things where it's like when you've got Ted Cruz, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Bernie Sanders, and Donald Trump Jr. all saying that Robinhood needs to be investigated for what they did by by taking those stocks off the market or for buying, but you could still sell them, by the way. Like that's the thing. If they had suspended both buying and trading, this might be completely different, but they kind of forced it one direction. But when you got all four of them together saying that, hey, this is wrong and we need to investigate this, you done screwed up big time, folks. You screwed up more than my brother when he tried to tell a Chuck Norris joke.
Yeah, so interesting. I don't know if you saw this or not, but did you hear kind of like the reason why, the real reason why Robinhood suspended everything? It's even more embarrassing. They ran out of money, bro. They used all of their credit, and then they had to go to the bank for emergency credit because. So here's the thing: they don't want to admit that because the CEO would rather quit his job, hide in a cabin in the woods, or kill himself before he would admit that his brokerage ran out of money, because that's that means you can't buy or sell any stock on his platform.
Right, and I'm also certain he wants Robinhood itself to go public at some time.
Right,
that would be some meta stuff. Buying Robinhood stock on Robinhood. Yeah.
So the interesting thing about Robinhood is that they don't charge a fee, right, when there's a transaction going on.
Right.
And when you deposit money or withdraw money from Robinhood, they let you do it instantly, even though they don't have the funds available. So if you put $1,000 into Robinhood, you can take that money instantly and trade it without a fee.
Mm-hmm.
So that works because they don't make money on you trading. They make money on you like the same way Facebook and these other companies do by having your mass collection of data from all these traders. And also the way they exchange the stock with the market, they get like 1/10 of a cent here and there. Is the easy way of explaining that during the trade. But they don't have the cash. They don't have liquidity like a normal brokerage would have.
Right.
So if you have hundreds of thousands of people making instant deposits for thousands and thousands of dollars, and then trading instantly, buying GameStop and AMC and stuff like that, Robinhood runs out of money. They can't pay for it.
Right.
So they have emergency credit to handle a situation like this. They burn through that. Then they had to go to like JP Morgan and Chase Bank and all these other places and get emergency credit to pay for this. So that's what I think happened, is they just don't have any money and they had to stop it somehow. So they let you sell because then they can retain some of that cash, but they don't want you buying anything where they have to go out and spend money that they don't have. Right. That's what I think really happened, and they're just blaming the whatever, the people on the couch or whatever, right? Like, oh, all these people are just causing volatility.
Right.
But if I'm wrong, and I've been wrong plenty of times in my past, just like the moral idea that Robinhood would prevent someone from buying something that they think is valuable is crazy to me, because it's not illegal. And some people call it market manipulation, and I'm kind of 50-50 on that, because I think all speculative investing should be outlawed. I think you shouldn't be able to short a company. You should either buy it because you think it's valuable or sell it because you don't think it'll be valuable anymore. And everything on top of that is just going to the casino and gambling.
Right.
So if you're going to keep me, like some poor guy trying to make his life working a 9-to-5, away from buying a stock, but you're not going to keep the hedge funds from trading, I mean, that's just two separate rules for two different kinds of people. I can't abide. I cannot abide.
Right. In fact, I created a Teespring t-shirt in response to this. And this is admittingly a shameless self-plug, folks. You can buy it on my Teespring store. And it says, Robinhood, we steal from the poor to give to the rich. Because that's really what it felt like. But yeah, as you can see, if you're watching this live, there's an article in the New York Times that says Robinhood in need of cash raises $1 billion from its investors. So, that kind of backs up your theory. But, ignoring why they might have had to do it, ignoring whether or not it's legal or not, let's first approach this in a different way. Like, is there a way that Robinhood could have done this where it would have been perfectly acceptable? Because there's a few scenarios where it's like, had this been handled a little differently, I could see this not being much of an issue. Like, there are
brokerages, and the SEC even has they're called tipping points, where if anything goes up too high or too low, they'll just cut it off. Period. Just cut off trading altogether. And that's really for more like a national security reason, right? Like, you don't want another entity, whether it be a government or an outside company, to destroy our financial institutions by doing something crazy, right?
Right.
So if something goes up or down too fast, they'll cut it off. But there's a standard for that, and it's universal, and they do it for everybody.
And it happened
clearly
twice.
Wall Street didn't think this was crazy, because Wall Street didn't stop the trading, so
actually,
it didn't break the top or lower. Oh, did they?
They did. They stopped it twice, in fact, but it was stopped for like maybe 20, 30 minutes until they realized, okay, this is nothing suspicious.
Right. So, yeah. But there's automatic points that we have right now everywhere across the board on Wall Street, where if something goes up too high or low too high, they just cut it off. And if Robinhood had done something like that, I'm behind it. But that isn't what they did.
No, they cut it off. They cut off your ability to buy, but you could still sell, and that basically almost gives it a leverage to go down. And a lot of people even start speculating whether or not, like, the big hedge funds paid them a fee to make it that way, which, I can't prove that, but the timing makes it a very plausible theory. But since I can't prove it, I'm not going to actually peddle in conspiracy theories. But
it's like George Carlton said all those years back, it's a big club, but you ain't in it.
Right.
Right.
Exactly.
He's got to go to all those fancy dinners with all the other fancy dinner wearing people with their tuxedos and their champagne. And he doesn't want to be the Ted Cruz of the group, sitting there in the corner while everyone just stares at you.
Right. So, yeah, exactly. So now I was thinking about, okay, what could Robinhood have done, like, to have made this better? It's like, and I could think of like a few things right off the bat. Like, okay, first of all, most obvious one, if you're going to take it, stop the buying of the stock, you stop the selling of the stock as well. Like, it's like, okay, it's just right now there's too much uncertainty about that. We're suspicious of it, so you can't buy or sell right now. Like, that's an even playing field. The second thing they could have done is, okay, we've got a paid Robinhood tier and a free Robinhood tier. So maybe, for these certain stocks, if you're on the free tier and you put money into it, you now have to wait for that money to clear first before you can buy it. And the perk of spending that money rests with the Robinhood Gold users. And the third thing, and this is actually, I agree with quite a bit, because this could financially ruin people, is, if it gets too crazy like that, you can't be borrowing Robinhood's money to buy the stock. I mean, I think if they'd done those three things, this would not have been the big deal it was. I don't know. Am I missing something else they could have done, or what do you think?
No, so look, what I'm going to say right now, I don't agree with. This is like the devil's advocate position.
Okay.
But when it comes to investing, especially speculative, dangerous investing, there are legal thresholds you have to be to obtain a certain I don't know how to explain it, like a rank. Think of it like video games, like a certain rank you have to become an investor. And so like if you're a venture capitalist, you have to have a certain amount of cash on you separate from your total portfolio that you can just basically set on fire. So you and I can't go to these investor meetings where they have the investor, like the big, investment capital guys, because we don't have enough money.
Right.
The reason behind that is they don't want me to sell my house, sell my car, sell all my earthly belongings, and put everything on Black 34 in the casino, right?
Mm-hmm.
They want to let me know that I have gotten to a certain level and I can lose whatever $12 billion on GameStop stock, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you believe in that kind of tiered system where there's investors like you and me, there's like Wall Street investors, hedge fund investors, and then venture capitalists at the top. If you believe that story, then you can do something like that on Robinhood, where does that make sense? Like,
yeah, no,
you don't have enough money in your portfolio to buy GameStop right now. You can only buy GameStop if you have X amount of money in your Robinhood portfolio, and I think that would be legitimate.
Let me explain that one, because I actually have some experience with this, because I have Robinhood Gold, so I can borrow money from Robinhood, although I limit myself to $1,000 because the $1,000 is the only money you can borrow that you don't pay interest on, and everyone wants to always keep that in mind. But they did like a scan of my portfolio and my bank account, and based on a combination of the two, they said, okay, you're eligible to borrow X amount of dollars. It was like $10,000, something like that. They felt comfortable letting me borrow $10,000 on speculative gambling. And again, I don't recommend people do this, especially since $9,000 of those dollars they were going to charge interest on. So, but that's how it works.
Yeah, I don't mind leveraging your position like that. I'm sorry, I keep using these stupid terms. I don't mind borrowing money from Robinhood to invest in the market if you don't have a lot of money available and you're doing it in a way that it makes sense, I guess. Like if you're getting a return currently in the market of around 3 to 6%, I think Robinhood charges 2.5 now, right? Is that right? Something like that?
It's something like 17 cents per dollar.
So 17%?
Probably, yeah.
So whatever it is, as long as you're making returns more than you are in being charged an interest, it makes sense to do that if you don't have the money. Like if you only have $500 extra cash, leverage another 500, and then in a couple months maybe you could sell it back and then still have some money. I personally don't have a problem with people doing that, but
I personally,
what happened here, this I want to tie it back to the beginning.
Okay.
That's exactly what this billionaire hedge fund guy did. Is he leveraged money he didn't have to buy the stock going down. And what drives me nuts is, what happened, right? After his hedge fund didn't go bankrupt. He went back to other hedge fund guys and
they
just gave him money. Oh, you need a couple $1 billion? Okay, go ahead and gamble with it. It's just, it's like that. It drives me nuts, these guys, these billionaires.
Yeah, what's
Could
really
you lose
funny?
$10 billion and then end up getting $4 billion back from your buddy? I couldn't do that.
No, I couldn't.
How do you sell a job? You lose $10 billion.
Yeah, well, it's all about connections there, because as we know in the business world, one day this guy might be in power, but then this guy below you, he might be in power. So you kind of take care of people who are just below you, so that just in case the tables ever turn and you need a favor from them, then.
But I want people to who are listening to understand that when you hear these news agencies, CNN, MSNBC, New York Times, like, oh, we have to do something about these Wall Street, Reddit groups and stuff like that. Look what they're doing in the market. But they don't say, some dude lost $10 billion on bad gambling bets, and he still has a job, and he just got a bunch of free capital from his billionaire friends.
Right.
But the guy on the couch with his cell phone trading GameStop, that's the problem.
Yeah, and And never mind that, these are the people that go on CNN and Fox News and Jim Cramer, who I don't have a personal problem with, by the way. And they're talking about, this stock will go up and this stock will go down. Because here's something that I always tell people when I make my videos about investment firms and we read an article. Because at the end of every article is like, we do not have a position in this. Yeah, that's not true. They always have a position in it. One way or another, they have a position in that company either succeeding or failing. And that's why they are so interested in discussing these things. And that's why you see them getting upset about it, because they did have a personal interest. And probably what bothered them the most is that basically people figured it out. They figured out how to play the game. And now, in fact, it's interesting because I think Andrew Left, is that his name? Andrew Left? He was one of the big guys who shorted GameStop. Capital Reich or something like that. I forgot what his hedge fund was called. But he said after losing billions of dollars that he would no longer be shorting companies. He would just be buying stocks and companies that he thought would do well. And in my mind, that's him basically saying like, all right, I'm going to keep who I'm shorting to myself from this point.
Yeah, most hedge funds try to keep that on the down low as much as possible. Because remember, a short squeeze is not new. Right. So these hedge fund guys who've been around a long time, they got some stories back in the day of when that happened to them or someone they knew to. Mm-hmm. And it's once you're in that spiral of death where every dollar it goes up, you owe $1,000 more. You're like, oh my God.
Yeah. Yeah. You know what it's kind of like for people at home it's almost like, and people who struggled with debt in the past will understand. Cause I used to be really bad with money, personal Apptrepreneur time 10 years ago. And it's probably because I had just moved to Southern California and I was totally unprepared for how much it really cost to live here. I was just struggling financially. And what was really keeping me down was the bank fees. Once you started doing overdrafts and the bank fees started piling up, it seemed like there was no end in sight. And now eventually I took some money classes. My church helped me out with some things. I got things around, and now I'm relatively comfortable. In fact, even some people in this very live stream might have actually helped me out during a tough spot, and I am always thankful for that. But yeah, that's kind of how it is for this guy. Now, granted, I don't feel too bad because again, this guy got to keep his job and he got all this, but he got a bailout from his buddies. But I
feel 0% sympathy for this guy. And here's another thing I want to say along the lines of what you're talking about.
Keep it G-rated.
Think about this. That's what did you say? I think $19 billion, I think is what you said. $19 billion left the hands of Wall Street and entered the pockets of regular, average, everyday people who go to work 9 to 5. If you go to that Reddit page, you'll cry when you read some of the stuff. One guy's like, I finally could buy insulin for my mom. I paid off my student debt. I had all these medical bills from when I had cancer that I've been paying nothing but interest on. I got to pay this off.
Hear stories about that.
It's devastating, and I'm so happy because when someone who already has $1 billion makes another $1 billion, for the country it doesn't do anything. For the world, it doesn't do anything. It doesn't add value to anywhere. Mm-hmm. But when a mass of people do gain wealth and they are able to lift themselves out of wherever the station they are, that adds value universally across the whole country.
Right.
And I love stories like this because, one, nothing illegal was done. These are the rules. I think they're stupid rules. I think they should change the rules. I think they should outlaw what just happened. But those are the rules. Right. So they played by the rules. They did what they should do. And they won, son. And they didn't just win some money. They won
a lot of money. They won a lot of money. Now, of course, all the politicians are talking about how something needs to be done. Who knows if something actually will?
In no world should you be able to short a company to 140% of the total amount of market share that it has. That makes no sense anywhere. That's almost buying 2 companies for the price of one. Right. And now you can leverage $4 billion that you don't have. Is mind-boggling. That all that should be illegal. So I hope they do something.
Well,
I do.
But what are they going to do? Because here's the thing. I made a point in one of my videos from early this week when I said, so do you think they want to do something because the poor people are in this? No, they're not. Because when the poor people get screwed, they don't care. But rich people got screwed this time. So something's obviously going to happen. But what's going to happen? You can't ban people getting together and saying, let's buy some stock. That doesn't meet the threshold.
You can redefine what is market manipulation, because it's kind of a vague definition if you look up the statute. But the more narrow you get, the harder it is to have a TV show. Like you're saying Jim Cramer.
Oh, he's out of a job if they narrow that down.
And also all of these hedge funds and all of these investment companies, they have like a internal group that you can sign up for where they say, oh, we think this stock is valued at here. We think this value, so buy or sell based upon our analytics, right?
Mm-hmm.
How is that not market manipulation? Like it's literally a financial institution saying buy this stock, sell this stock. So the more narrow you get with that definition, I think the more pushback you're going to get from Wall Street, because that's how they make their money, is they're experts,
Right, which they're really not experts. The 2008 crash should prove that. I think there's really the funny thing is when you get down to things and you explain it like a 5-year-old, as Denzel Washington said in Philadelphia. You really just need to do two things. One, you have to say, hey, if you're going to become like a brokerage firm like Robinhood or Webull or something, you can't like halt buying and keep selling, or halt selling and keep buying. You can't do that because that shows favoritism. And I think it's just finally time that shorting becomes illegal. And you know what? Here's the fun thing about shorting, and this is what I want people to make clear. I think shorting stocks and the housing market, whatever you want to call it, I think that is a huge conflict of interest for America, because America, land of opportunity, land of growth, whether you're capitalist or socialist, the idea of shorting is that you are basically betting on people to lose and profiting off that. And not only that, it kind of encourages rich people to try and hurt companies and people's jobs and their livelihoods because they want to make a little bit more money. And I don't care how much of a capitalist I am, that is not in line with America's values, in my opinion.
Yeah, well, so I'll piggyback on that a little bit, because I think that any kind of speculative investing should, I don't know if you can make it illegal, but should have an incentive. Well, actually, if you ask me personally, yeah, it should be legal, but I think it'd be hard to implement that. But what you should have is a significant enough penalty to stop massive speculation. So I don't know whether that be like a tax or like some kind of stopgap measure, like a maximum and a minimum that for like a company or something like that. Or maybe there's a bunch of things that maybe could happen, but I hate speculative investing because it doesn't make it makes value out of nothing for nothing. Whereas when you invest in a company that you believe in or that does something, you're creating value in a company for a reason. I don't know if that makes philosophical sense to you, not what I just said, but
well, no, I know what you're saying. I don't know if I completely agree with it, because I mean, when you put the limits on, because that could also be applied to the everyday people who made this beautiful situation happen, and that they're the ones who are going to be penalized before the rich people. Because again, like one of the reasons I tell people that when someone writes in their article, we have no positions in this, but they really do, it's because, in their personal portfolio, they don't have any positions, but through a friend or a hedge fund or something, they have positions in this company.
Man, everyone has a position, everyone has an opinion, and everyone has a political position. And people who tell you that they're neutral are liars. That's why the best, and this is my opinion, obviously, I think the best people in the world today who are doing any kind of news-related content is someone like you who says, here's my position, here are my biases, here's where I'm coming from, and that way the viewer is it can evaluate that themselves. And it drives me nuts that someone on Wall Street, married to a hedge fund person, is writing stuff like, oh, I'm totally neutral. It's not true. You're married to somebody in the system. I think it's one of the funny things when people come to my channel like, you're biased in your opinion. It's like, well, yeah, I'm honest about that, and people come here for my opinion. Why wouldn't they? I assume that they're subscribing to the Apptrepreneur to find out the Apptrepreneur's opinion on things. I almost kind of feel like Penn Jillette when in the first episode of Bullshit, he pointed out that he and Teller obviously dabble in a little bullshit themselves, and he's like, so what's the difference between us and the people we're complaining about? Well, we tell you we're lying. Yeah.
Like it's all part of the act.
No problem if somebody is they're saying buy Disney, if as long as they say, oh, by the way, I have $10,000 position in Disney, so maybe, because here's the thing, if they have $10,000 in Disney, they probably do think it's going to go up in value, right? Otherwise they wouldn't have it. And so as long as you are upfront about that, then yeah, say all the great things you want to about Disney, as long as you reveal that you have some money in there.
Yeah, I'm actually kind of unique in that regard because I actually do have a position in Disney, but I make videos on my failed journalist channel that are very critical of Disney, and people say, aren't you an investor? And it's like, well, yes, and that's why I have a problem, because as an investor and a fan, I see why this isn't good.
Yeah. I think this is just my personal opinion, and I do have some money, not a lot in Disney, but I do have some, is that what Disney's basically been able to do in the last 15 years is create a monopoly in the areas that they operate. And it's just completely unfair that they can have such a hold on talent, whether it be actors or directors, and creative, the creative minds behind the scenes, like writers, artists, and stuff like that. It's just unfair completely. But that being said, if we're going to let a monopoly exist, might as well invest in it. No, they have no competition. They're going to run away with it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I have moral problems with investing in Amazon, but it's like I complain about Apple, their monopoly, but I have 20 shares in Apple stock, so I don't know. So anyway, here's like the big question though, because I see a lot of people canceling their Robinhood portfolios. They're going to plan to move their money. So I guess my question for you, are you going to continue to use Robinhood after I don't know if you were personally buying this stock, but knowing that Robinhood would just stop, basically put potentially stocks you might have in the future in a position where they're almost putting a leverage on it to go down almost exclusively. Like, would you still be using Robinhood at that point?
No, so I am going to continue to use Robinhood, and it did anger me what they did. But the thing is Robinhood has already done so much good in this investing climate that I feel like it's almost like my feelings over facts. You hear that all the time. Like my love for what they did to just bring an average person who only has $25 and open up a way for them to get out of poverty by investing slowly without any fees over time, is incredible. And I like the idea that they make money not by you buying or selling, but by you using their platform. So you as an investor get a free access to the stock market, which you didn't have before that. I mean, you had to pay a broker, you had to pay fees. If you had it online, even with like some of the other online brokerages, you still had to pay a per trade fee. But Robinhood just totally changed the game, and now across the board you have ETFs that have no fees now that are trying to compete with Robinhood. All the major movers
have fees anymore. Fidelity doesn't have fees anymore,
and all that happened because of Robinhood. And it's new, or it still is new, but it definitely was new when it came out. It was innovative, and even if they did something bad now, I think overall, they did too many good things for just a regular average Joe, to where I'm not there yet. Like, I got my eyes on you. Okay, that's not cool, bro. Right. So, it wasn't even the first time they've really made a bunch of mistakes, because they've had their app crash a few times. And so it's new. I feel like sometimes when you're new, you're the first, you break into this mold, and then once you're through the mold, you're like, what now? So I think that they're making it up as they go along, because they're in new territory that we haven't seen before. And I'm not there yet. That being said, I did open up a Webull account just in case, Armageddon happens and I got to switch over to another app.
So it's funny because, and I know that, by the way, Webull did some suspending themselves, although they were much quicker to unsuspend the trading of the stocks.
See, I don't think suspending trading is bad. I think that's good as long as you have a universal cap that everyone knows about. So there's a top and a bottom, and it's universal across the board.
Which we didn't have for this.
Like a pause button almost. Like, wait, pause. Is there something illegal going on here? No, okay, unpause. I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Right. So, but that's clearly needs to be discussed, and maybe it needs to go through Congress to figure that out. I have I have downloaded a Webull account. And I ended up through a stop loss selling my AMC shares. I did make some money, but it wasn't as much as it could have been, and I clearly blame Robinhood for that. And
never say that, bro. If you make money, you make money. Don't say you could have or you couldn't have, right?
Well, but in this case, I
could have married my high school girlfriend, but I didn't. No, you made money. Be happy. You made money.
Well, yeah, but in this case, like it clearly Robinhood had an effect on the potentials, and so I'm a little upset.
No, I feel you.
So I actually did withdraw the money that I made on that, and when AMC, because I do believe in AMC and I do want to hold, but I think the stock will go down at least $5 over the next week or two. So I will rebuy it when it's lower, but I will be rebuying it on Webull, not Robinhood, and I will probably slowly start moving that stuff over, and maybe Robinhood will fall in my good graces again. And there's nothing wrong with having a couple of brokerage apps. There's nothing that says you can't do that. You just have to open different apps to see what your value is.
Webull does have a transfer option where they'll pay all the fees to transfer, but you can only do it one time.
You can only do it one time.
So if you do it once, like with half of your portfolio, then that other half you're going to get charged a fee for it.
I see.
So you may want to take advantage of that. I mean, I don't know. I like Robinhood more than Webull. I was looking at the app because I feel like Webull, there's too much information. It's really more for day traders, I think. Because there's too much going on. When I use Robinhood, I already know if I'm going to buy or sell it. I don't need to know the analytics. I've already done that on myself. I just need to push a button and then have someone trade my stock for me. So those are my 2 cents.
Okay, well, and I won't transfer everything over right away. I'll kind of play around with a little bit to see how I like it first. And if I end up liking it more than Robinhood, okay, I'll switch. It's no sweat off my back. I mean, this is actually the second time that Robinhood majorly messed me up. Like the first time, like there were some stocks that were going up really high and the app crashed, and there were a couple stocks that I actually would have sold that I couldn't sell. That ended up losing me money, and they never recovered from that. So that was like a bad day, but I figured I'd give another chance. And then when they more or less forced because keep in mind, I had a huge position in AMC before this started. I didn't buy 100 shares just last week. I've had them for a year. So, that was like a really good return, and they kind of screwed me on that. So it got personal. What can I say? I mean, what's they say? When it comes to your money, things become personal real fast.
Yeah. The other thing that really messed up on is the COVID crash that happened, like I think the end of last February or whatever, when the market just tanked and then it slowly recovered from there. Mm-hmm. The app also crashed on there because everyone was trying to panic sell all their positions, and the app crashed out there. So a lot of people ended up losing a lot of money that way too.
Right, which I didn't do. In fact, on the day it was crashing, I basically said, I'm just going to write it out. I'm just going to write it out because I know a lot of people wouldn't do that, but...
Okay, I will preface this by saying, don't ever do what I do. I'm not a financial advisor. Yeah. But when the market crashes like that, I use all of my leverage instantly because I have enough faith in the U.S. market that over time, it may take a year or two, but it'll recover and then some. And then I can just sell my position later and get that value.
I didn't sell. In fact, I just bought more. Bought more because it's like that old Schoolhouse Rock song, Walking on Wall Street. You could look it up on YouTube where very simple advice, but it goes, buy low, sell high, take a piece of the pie. That's the Wall Street way. And so it's always in the back of my mind. So when I see like the Dow crashing or going down like 200 points, and it typically does on Fridays for some reason, I'm always like, don't panic. It will recover. In fact, that's the time you want to buy more. And again, this is not financial advice.
I sell very infrequently. I'm a very long-term, Like, I don't like the idea of buying and selling on a day trading basis. I know a lot of people make a lot of money doing that.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm an amateur. I'm not a professional investor. So I look at a company that I like, and then I put money into that company, and then I just kind of leave it there because I know I have faith that in the future it'll go up. So I'm not worried about this as long as it continues over. If that makes any sense.
Right.
And that's an old school way of investing. No one does that anymore.
Well, I still do that. I'm, for the most part, long-term as well. Although, interestingly, GameStop was one of the few stocks that I wasn't long on. I bought it because it was just so cheap, and it's like, well, even if it got to $10, I'd be a little ahead of the game. And now, actually, here's an interesting question for you. Knowing that, I should never have regrets going back, because when it got to $15, $20, I had a stop loss. It got triggered at 18, I think, and it's like, I thought I did really well, but I don't know. Should I have regrets about that?
No, man. Anytime you make money on an investment, you won. It's like being at a poker table. If you double your money, just get up and leave. Who cares how much more money is on the table? You won. Leave. Get out of there. Because when you look at your Robinhood account and it says this is how much that money is worth, that's monopoly money. That doesn't mean anything. That's just numbers on a spreadsheet. Mm-hmm. Until you've realized the gains or losses, you don't have anything. Mm-hmm. So when you sell something and you take that cash and put it in your pocket, do a little dance, man. It doesn't matter what happens after that. You've already won.
Right. Now, so
think about when, like, it's like getting married, right? You marry the person that you love and you want to do it for their lifetime. So who cares if some other hot girl just turned 18 that would be perfect for you? Don't worry about that. You've already got what you want. She's right there.
Yeah, well, but I can't. But dollars and cents compared to women. I mean, I can't imagine marrying anyone else but my wife. So, but yeah. that's just me. You hear that, honey? I love you. She's in the kitchen doing stuff, and I know she can hear when I do these shows. I got to keep her out of the studio when I do these. So, giving her a shout out. Some guys do that.
They get into a relationship and they're happy, and then they start thinking like, man, but what if? It's the same thing with your stock portfolio. You got in low, you sold high, you made a profit. Just be happy. Who cares what happens from then on out? You've already won.
Yeah, well, that's actually my mom's position too. Like, hey, I won because she actually sold her plug stock at like $30 a share. It got up to 40, started going down, so then she sold it. It's like, okay, man, well, I hope I made people money. I told everyone I knew, you got to buy plug. You got to buy plug. You got to buy plug. It was like, what, like, I think it was 66 cents when I told you, right? Something like that. It was $3.
I don't think you bought it right away. Yeah, but yeah, that was a couple months later. Yeah. But man, people who listened to me made a lot of money on that plug. No. So you're all welcome who listened to me, but don't listen to me. I'm a terrible investor.
Yeah, and by the way, folks, because I get this comment once in a while, people come in and they say like, well, so-and-so is making money on the stock market. I always have to tell them like, no, they're not. Unless they're actually selling it and walking away with the profits, they're not making money. When you show a screenshot and it says your portfolio is up like $3,000, you're not $3,000 richer until you sell it.
Right.
And that can always change. So, that's why we always like to stress people that, be careful with your money. Be careful. Talk to financial advisors. Don't listen to people on YouTube who play the stock market. The Robinhood thing I'm doing was a interesting channel experiment, but your results are going to vary, and they might be worse than mine. They could also be better than mine. You just never know. So anyway, that was a fun little hour of talking about, Robinhood and the stock market. And for the record, folks, me and Aaron were texting about this this was all going on, and Aaron was just giddy that everyday people were sticking it to Wall Street.
I love it, man, because real people create real value. Billionaires don't. It's pretend money. They're making money on spreadsheets. It doesn't help anybody. In fact, this guy was making it worse because he was trying to bankrupt GameStop. Now think about all the employees, all the investors across the board that would have lost their job or some other monetary position because this jerk is trying to short it into like a non-existence. It drives me nuts.
Right, and unlike your Uber job, GameStop actually pays something for your time, and you actually get a benefit or two here from working there.
You know, I really like doing Uber and Lyft when I could do it. It's just, you know, some you get old, man. Sometimes you get old, and they don't offer health insurance.
Yeah, well, and here's the thing. I always tell people that, you know, it was purely financial, and in some ways douchery on higher management on Uber and Lyft on why I left, because people say like, well, what do you think of the job? The job was great. It was fun, but they just didn't pay enough to keep me doing it.
And the other thing that bothered me is that they stopped letting you live stream, and I loved live streaming with people while I was out there driving around. Like, it felt like I was on an inside joke, with just the viewers.
Right. It's not because they didn't want people to think that they were to look like such a terrible company, even though it's like, you know, every newspaper out there is basically saying they are. Now, Rideshare Source Driver, I guess this question is relevant to what we're talking about. It says, what do you think about buying and selling currency? I'm assuming he means cryptocurrency.
No, I think what he's meaning, like, you can buy Australian dollars with US dollars.
Oh. And
then depending on how the value of the currency goes up or down, then you've made money or lost money.
Oh, okay.
And that I think it's one of the smarter ways to invest, if I'm being honest, because even if you end up losing, you still own money. So if you buy $10,000 in Australian dollars, even if it loses money versus the dollar, well, that sucks, but at least you still physically have something. You still have $10,000, even if it's not worth as much as it was before. I think that's what he's talking about. But I'm not good at math. You have to be really good at math to do that, because you have to be able to convert the currencies and then do the up and down averages in your head, or have a computer program that'll do it for you. And I'm not that smart. Right. So I don't do currencies.
Yeah, well, now that I know it's cash currency, I don't do that either, for the record. So
if you're smart and you're good with math, it's a really easy market to exploit, because there are not a lot of people in the world who can do it. Like, I can tell you, people are going to continue to buy Coca-Cola. I think any idiot can see that.
One of my biggest holdings is Coke.
Yeah, but I have no idea how to make the conversion in my head that fast. I'd have to do it with a calculator. I wouldn't be able to do it fast enough.
Right. All right. So anyway, that was a great show. Thank you for joining me, Aaron. You'd be okay with coming onto the show again sometime, maybe?
Yeah, man. Whenever. You know, I kind of been blacked out from the internet for a while, but that was just because of life circumstances. I always like doing stuff like this. But, you know, when you're sick and you're in pain, you're hurting, and you're getting medical treatment, stuff like that, you don't want to be on the internet.
Right. I could have you online and going like, so what do you think about Microsoft doubling the cost of Xbox Live? And you're like, Kevin, I don't care. Give me a
I want more morphine.
Exactly. Give me another painkiller or something like that. But like I could care less what's going on Xbox Live. Anyway, folks, that is where we are going to end this particular topic. So for those of you who are watching on YouTube, you can subscribe to my channel, The Apptrepreneur. You can also subscribe to Aaron's channel, Your Personal Driver. And you can also ring the bell and get notified of notifications. If you are listening to this on Spotify or iTunes or SoundCloud, you can also subscribe and do their special little bell. They all have different things that they do. But so thank you so much for joining me. Comment below, and if you're on YouTube, and well, flame responsibly. Have a good one.